He was alone, just like us. Every person is alone because that's the essence of being human. Every living thing experiences solitude in its own way. Stars travel alone through the vastness of space. Trees grow alone, each following its own path. Animals live and die in their solitary worlds, even though they may gather in groups or pairs. But deep down they're alone, bound within their own existence. This truth applies to all life, but it hits humans the hardest. We're not just alone, we're painfully aware of it. We question our solitude, wrestle with it, try to overcome it, but it's inescapable. It's part of our fate to be alone and to know it. The story of Adam and Eve illustrates this. It tells us that once there was no separation between man and woman. They were one. They yearned to return to that state of unity. Yet, despite recognizing each other as part of themselves, they remain isolated. The narrative highlights their solitude as God addresses them individually, assigns them their own guilt, listens to their excuses and accusations, curses them separately, and leaves them to confront their shame alone. The creation of Eve was supposed to solve Adam's loneliness, but instead, it introduced him to another being, just as alone. This act didn't erase solitude, it merely added another layer to it. From them, every person inherits this solitude, each of us standing alone in the world. But we question this. Is it truly so? Did God not create a better outcome? Does love not diminish our solitude when men and women come together? Indeed, in moments of connection and love, it seems so. Love's ecstasy can merge one with another, momentarily dissolving separation. Yet, when these moments fade, the sense of isolation from oneself and from each other intensifies, sometimes even leading to aversion. We feel we've shared too much and crave to reclaim our given selves. This urge to guard our inner solitude manifests as shame, a reaction to exposing our most private selves. Like Adam and Eve, who covered themselves upon realizing their nakedness, men and women cannot fully bridge their inner chasms, even in closeness. Their inherent separateness ensures they can support and relate to each other, forming human bonds. That's why not even God can free us from solitude. Our self-reliance is our strength. Detached, we observe and engage with the world. This detachment allows us to understand, cherish, and alter our environment. In granting humanity dominion over the earth, God endorsed our solitude. Thus, we stand equipped to communicate with God and each other, to inquire, respond, and choose, endowed with the capacity for both virtue and vice. True freedom belongs to the individual with an inviolable core. Only the solitary can truly be human. This solitude defines our grandeur and our challenge. Our words capture the two sides of being alone well. Loneliness is the word for when it hurts to be alone. Solitude is the word for when it's grand to be alone. We mix them up in everyday talk, but we shouldn't. Understanding the difference can help us grasp what it means to be human. In the 25th Psalm, it says, "Turn to me and be kind. I am lonely and hurting." The writer is feeling loneliness, a deep kind. We don't know all his reasons, but we understand loneliness has many. We've all felt it. Often we're loneliest after we lose those who kept us from feeling alone. This can happen when people leave us or die. I'm talking about close people and others who made us feel part of something, like co-workers, friends, or groups we felt connected to. For many, this loneliness doesn't go away. It turns into a deep sadness. If we listen with a loving heart, we can hear the sighs of lonely people everywhere. But think about those who have friends, neighbors, colleagues, and families. They live in communities and share their lives with others, enjoying relationships and connections that some might lack. Yet, do they escape the sting of loneliness? Does being in a crowd shield them from feeling alone? If we count ourselves among these people, we might realize something profound. The deepest loneliness can hit when we're surrounded by others, the moment we recognize our own isolation. There are times, even amidst companionship, when one feels an overpowering sense of solitude, prompting a retreat into oneself to face this inner desolation. It's not just a superficial feeling to be dismissed. It's not merely about lacking strength or not fitting in. Sure, there are many who feel outside the group and might need support or guidance, but I'm talking about the ones who stand firm in their social circles, who found their place among others, and yet they confront a deep, unsettling loneliness. They sense, in a stark, revealing moment, the true human condition of isolation. It's not enough to say some feel lonely because they're misunderstood or fail to communicate their inner selves. True, everyone experiences this to some extent. Who is entirely understood, even by themselves? People are complex, beyond simple explanations or understanding. However, some believe they harbor unique qualities or insights that go unrecognized, which can lead to feelings of exclusion and loneliness. They seek acknowledgement, and without it they retract, feeling unseen. But then, there are those who genuinely offer something profound, who share their true selves, are acknowledged, yet still encounter an intense solitude. In such instances, they're not just feeling surface-level loneliness, but touching on a universal human experience, a profound awareness of our singular journeys despite the crowds that surround us. Some people feel lonely because their love isn't returned. They try hard to love and be loved, but when it doesn't work, they end up creating their own loneliness. They think love is something they deserve, not something freely given. When they're rejected, they pull back, get bitter, and sometimes even enjoy the pain of being alone. There are many like this, and they add a lot to the loneliness we see today. These people really need help, otherwise they get lost in their loneliness, cut off from everyone else. Then there's the real pain of love that's turned away. No demands are made, but when hope reaches out and finds nothing, it hurts. Sometimes a connection of love ends or never starts. This kind of loneliness makes us feel completely cut off. If someone can face this kind of loneliness without becoming bitter, they really understand something deep about human life. But there are two kinds of loneliness that stand apart. The loneliness that comes from guilt and the loneliness that comes with knowing we will die. Our guilt, things we've done wrong that go against who we are, stays with us. We can't blame anyone else for it. It's something we have to face alone, and it colors every other type of loneliness, making them feel like a form of judgment. And then there's the loneliness of knowing we will die. We face death alone. No one else's words or presence can change the fact that in the end, it's our own death we're facing. At that moment, we're completely separated from everything and everyone. We're left alone with the reality of our own ending. Who can really handle that kind of loneliness? Only those who can face being alone can beat loneliness. We need solitude. It's part of who we are. We want to know ourselves, to be alone, and find joy and strength, not fear or pain. There are many paths to solitude, and they are deep, almost sacred if you believe what they say, that what a man does alone is his religion. One path is the quiet of nature. We talk to trees, clouds, and the sea without words. They answer with the sound of leaves, the dance of clouds, the whisper of water. This solitude is fleeting. Nature doesn't solve our deep questions, so we leave, returning from our solitude to the noise of human life. Solitude can also come from art, reading poems, listening to music, looking at paintings, deep thinking. Alone in a crowd, we're not lonely. Solitude is a shield, not a wall. But then, life pulls us back to chatter and routine, covering us again in loneliness. Our age is marked by loneliness. People fear being alone, lost in the crowd, craving connection. The world pushes this. Schools, media, even our homes deny us quiet, personal space. Yet sometimes solitude is forced upon us, a gift we didn't ask for. Jeremiah felt it, alone because God chose it. In solitude, we face real questions, seek justice, find our own path. It's here we touch the core of life, discover mysteries only solitude reveals. For those who seek creativity, know this: solitude is your wellspring. An hour alone, aware and deep in thought, fuels creativity more than any study or practice. In solitude, we meet ourselves, our truest, deepest selves, and that's where real creation begins. In solitude, what occurs? Consider the desert solitude of Jesus as Mark describes. Alone for 40 days, tested among wild beasts attended by angels. Alone, he faced the universe, nature wild outside and within, confronting divine and demonic forces. This is solitude's essence, confronting our inner battles, facing creation and destruction, God and demons. Solitude is arduous. Who can endure it? Even Jesus found it challenging. He sought isolation in the hills to pray. At dusk, alone, solitude deepens. Such times mark life's phases, even its end. Solitude was Jesus' choice to seek understanding, not an easy path. Prayers often lack the power to transform solitude. They're mere conversation. True prayer, like Jesus's, requires silent communion with the soul's depths amidst life's trials, securing moments of irreplaceable solitude. In solitude, transformation occurs. Our core, our true self, connects with the divine, finding peace without losing identity. Now, addressing communion from solitude, we cannot fully know another, always alone. Yet, in solitude, reaching upward to God, we find a path back to others. Alone, we connect with all through the divine, finding love and community. Solitude can bridge souls, allowing us to touch those afar. In solitude's quiet, the eternal breaks through, linking us, transcending time. So what is solitude's true essence? It is encountering the eternal amid life's transience, alone yet surrounded by a divine presence, connecting with all life, even in isolation. In solitude's lack we find abundance. Embrace solitude to face the eternal, discover others, and see ourselves anew.